So we're further exploring the production process of the consumer. Today we're going to look at money through the time theory of money and the way how discounting works. Usually when people talk about money, they talk about it as some kind of abstract thing. If you're going to really explore the commercial paradigm, you have to think of the way how people use money to think. So what will be calculative thinking, and the way how this form of thinking actually discounts what is true thinking. And you look at, say, the tyranny, let's say, of money, the way how money commands life to adhere to a certain worldview. Well, if you don't connect it to the way how it's utilised within business, then how will you understand the nature of the significance of its use and ultimately the opportunity cost of it? And so this will be a good way to frame the way how change is discounted through its use, and so essentially the way how we price change out of life through our discounting. So if you don't connect it in that way, then when you talk about money, so you'll have these people that will talk about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is some big kind of liberating, say, force that's going to remove parasites that obviously originate credit that we use, and the leveraging that it entails, the weaponization, say, of finance when it relates to people adhering to certain edicts of the state. All these things are subordinate to the principal claim made on time. So once again, if we're the principal product of civilization, you have to understand how that occurs, but then you also have to understand the way how you get sold to rationalise the price of your labour, and so what you discount when you adhere to the orientation of a totalising claim of a buyer's journey. And so we're going to do that today. And so once again, this will be a novel way to explore the themes that we cover, but just literally in a way that people really don't think about it. So present discounted value as a principle proclaims that a present value of money is worth more than a future sum of money. And so the way that you're establishing rates of return over time to determine, say, different levels of risk, obviously it predicates the return that you need in order to forego present consumption for future consumption. And so like when you're looking at it like that, that makes obviously perfect sense, because in order to incentivize for that return, you're looking at it on a comparative basis. And so the present value is always discounted in reference to the future cash flow, right? Because future cash flow is what enables obviously future consumption to increase through the rate of return that you generate when you forego present consumption. So that when it frames, it makes perfect sense. It's totally reasonable, and so therefore you can say that there's a logic to it. All right, so logic in and of itself does not mean to say that it makes sense, all right, because it makes sense, but then if you have another level of questioning to it, won't make sense, all right. So because there's certain givens that are built in to present discounted value, and ultimately the rate of return. And so what is the constancy that is over time that is completely jettisoned when you're looking at investments, let's say, and so rates of return. So if you don't give context to the constancy that does not differ, then the rates of return, or the way how that you differentiate, say, risk and reward, won't make any sense. All right, so that's what we need to focus on, is that, and that is that when you have the calculative logic of using money as a tool for thinking, that is essentially what is discounted. All right, so we need to explore that. So what is discounted? What is the constancy that is discounted when you're using the formulas of present discounted value or the time theory of money? So what would be that? So if you work back and you'll say you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor, and you're looking at the way how that you can generate a return. What are you generating a return on. Now you'll say it's your funds, obviously it's the capital that you deploy, but that is just simply not the case, because in order for you to allocate funds to generate a return, what's the return based off? Okay, so what are you monetizing? Well, we would say, well, you're monetizing, ultimately it's life. You're monetizing life because you can only generate a return on people's activity on the way how they're orientated towards life. All right, so it doesn't matter when you're looking at different vehicles, the ultimate end, all right, is life. But then, well, how is life given when we're looking at rates of return? It's a buyer's journey. And so what's the principal product that we produce when life is commercial and when the calculative, logic of using money as a tool for thinking is given without question? All right, so that's the buyer's journey. The principal product is the consumer. What is the consumer credited over its lifetime? All right, you're a demand center. All right, so you can only want. So any investment that generates a return is not generating returns on funds that are allocated, it's generating the return on you as the principal product our economy produces. And so what is the constancy? The constancy is the agency that you're credited as a demand center that does not change over time. All right, so in that case, what does, say, when you're using money as a tool for thinking, what does it discount? It discounts you. All right, how does it discount you? Well, you're only a credit instrument. Investment is to monetize your demand, is to monetize the form of life, to maintain basically the whole paradigm of the way how things are given. So in that way, what it does, it discounts the production process and it discounts that total loves and claim that's made on time when it's given as a value. Because if you look at the time theory of money, right? The time theory of money, time is not time. Time has suffered a reduction into an economic good in order for it to predicate basically money as a way as a tool for thinking. All right, the way how that we think, the way how that price becomes a convention. But we don't understand that through that convention of pricing, we discount a human being because you're reduced into a credit instrument. And as a result of that, through price, we price change out of our lives. Now, what would that change be? Well, if the constancy of agency of you as being a consumer is your demand, or what you're credited as such, as want, what we price out is the agency that we're credited. If we're orientated as economic agents to our want, then what we discount is the creativity that we inherently have as human beings to create the world. So you can say that the commercial paradigm is set up a way of externalizing creativity to monetize life through the discounting that occurs. If you frame it along these lines, the whole entire commercial paradigm is externalized as thinking. Okay, why? Well, and so think of it along the lines of a business owner. All right, so this is the easiest way to fucking do this. Is that in order for you to be sold on the customer, you have to be sold on the consumer first, as I always say. A business has a customer first orientation, okay? So the consumer is this miraculation. It's never fucking considered. It's totally externalized. It's discounted. So when you use money as a tool for thinking and you're looking at present discounted, say, value, and you're looking at cash flows over time, that is just completely and utterly externalized. And so when you have a economic calculation is equivocated for thinking, that is half the problem, because it's not thinking, because it works off an assumption. And then if it works off an assumption, it works off the principal assumption that time is a value. But as we've kind of talked about, that is a totalizing truth claim. And so you're orientated towards life marginally for you to be sold, never to actually understand the way how that occurs, and that ultimately that immanentizes a form of belief or religiosity, unavowed religiosity, to such a degree that we can't see that the whole commercial paradigm is created a way of life that discounts thinking life holistically, because we can only be orientated marginally because we are a product. If we are a product, there's the means of our production. All right, we think that we are people, but as I said, if we're credit instruments, you're sold on the way how life is given, to not question the way how it's given. Because the transition that you undergo from a child to an adult is a transition from a child to the consumer that you groom to be. You're a credit instrument. You make a bond with other people to not venture anything beyond it. And so when we're looking at our unavowed religiosity, and we're looking at that collectivist creed of the mass market in inverted commas, we really need to explore the nature of the rivalry that is cleared through the pricing mechanism. So I talk about the way how if time's given as an economic good or given as the means to produce the consumer form of life, that is cleared through price. All right, we bind ourselves together because life's given as a buyer's journey, and so there's a mass of people that bind themselves together. All right, so that collectivist creed, we need to understand that that way of life creates a certain, there's rivalry there that we need to understand, because we have the pretense that we are cooperating on life, but what underwrites our cooperation is as a rival, and we ultimately need to address that, and so we'll do that in future episodes.